Good evening and welcome to MNLTalks presented by MassageMNL and MNLTalks. My name is Gavin and I will be your host for tonight. Actually, it's the season ender for the first season of our MNL Talks, and it has been a joy to learn with all of you guys about motherhood, self-care, being intentional, and so much more. And we are not going to stop to give you the topics that are beneficial and nurturing. Do you know anyone who cannot sit still, wait their turn, or be patient, or you having some trouble listening and paying attention? You get distracted easily? So many questions about behavior. Let us define and educate ourselves. And have you heard about ADHD and autism? How much do you know about it? And of course, don't worry, we got you covered for tonight. Tonight's special episode is presented to you by Kahel Press, Abuelita.mnl, Chihuahua Cosmetics, and Covix Disinfectant. They will also be giving away prizes for today, so keep it locked in. Their accounts or their Instagram handles are flashed on your screen, so please don't forget to follow them so you can join our giveaway for tonight. So for tonight, our sixth episode, we will tackle about life coaching teens with ADHD and autism. Our guests for tonight will be talking about facts about ADHD and autism and what it's like living with needs programs and so much more. And of course, para hindi tayo lonely for tonight, we have very, very special guests for tonight. And of course, our first guest is the president of the ADHD Society of the Philippines, Miss Alu Aluzan-Aran. Hi, Miss Alu.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me here. So, in behalf of the ADHD Society of the Philippines, our Board of Advisors, our Board of Trustees, and our members, thank you very much for allowing us to have a voice to tell people what ADHD is and the ADHD Society of the Philippines. Thank you, Sky, and MassageMNL.
Yes, of course, Miss Alu, we're super excited to know more about it. And of course, I am sure that moms are tuned in right now to learn more about it. And of course, para naman more fun, we also have our next guest. He's a life coach for teens and young adults with ADHD and autism, Mr. Fiel, John Meria. Hi, Coach John.
Hi, good evening. Also, on behalf of the ADHD Society of the Philippines, with special mention to Kahel Press, who published a couple of my books, Fish Be With You, and Some Bunny to Love. So these are pet books, no, for children. So kung merong mga plantito-plantita, dapat mag-alaga na rin tayo ng animals as productive things that we can do during this pandemic. So I'm happy to talk about the two favorite topics that I have, which is ADHD and autism, and I'm happy to be here. God bless you all.
Ayun, kanina actually before we started, medyo meron na tayong konting napag-usapan about it. And I'm super excited for everyone to hear about all these things as well. And for our audience today, please don't forget to send in your questions if you guys have any, and we will have our experts answer them. Please use the hashtag MNLTalks. And don't forget to tune in until the end of the program because we have lots of prizes for you for our giveaway. Ayan, so let's get right to it. Ito, I think this is the most basic thing that people should learn about Miss Alu and Coach John. So let's learn the basics. So what are ADHD and autism? Meron bang specific na explanation what it is? Let's start with Miss Alu.
Okay, ADHD is neurological disorder. It is mostly manifested in behavior. So, hindi siya kasalanan. There's just the brain is wired differently upon birth, and at the same time, because we believe it's genetic, some are saying this is environmental or experiential, but that doesn't have anything yet. But it's mostly diagnosed through behavior. So yung hindi mapakali, tayo ng tayo, daldal ng daldal. Those are the hyperactivity symptoms. Pero meron din daydreaming, they cannot remember things. Yun naman inattentive. Tapos meron naman din impulsive. Yung kung ano yung maisip, that's what they're gonna do. So that's the one naman na impulsive. So basically, ADHD is characterized by some discordant in terms of behavior. So, hindi sila, like for example, their attention span is only like 5-10 minutes and that's it. Tatayo na sila agad, hindi talaga nila kaya. So, it's not because they don't want to, but because there's a part of their brain is not allowing them to even remember anything once they've disengaged. So that's basically what ADHD is.
Okay.
Coach John?
So what she did was to basically describe me because I am a person diagnosed with ADHD, no? So now I guess I would like to comment on autism, no? So a lot of people here might be asking, but why did you put ADHD and autism together? Because they're both considered neurodevelopmental disorders according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Conditions or Mental Disorders, right? So these are both, what do we mean by that? They're both inborn, no? A lot of people with autism also have the characteristics of ADHD, especially mga attention problems, impulse problems. Pero yung mas matinding highlight sa kanila would be on other branches of impairment. So unang-una, yung empathy o yung ability nila to put themselves in the shoes of other people. Kaya they have impairments of socialization. They also tend to have a problem with flexibility, and sometimes depending on the level of yung functioning ng tao, meron ding intellectual impairment. Kaya siya tinatawag na autism spectrum disorder. Spectrum kasi on one end you have individuals na hindi man lang nakakapagsalita despite therapies and all of these things, and on the other end of the spectrum you have yung mga high functioning autism, diba? And some of the most wealthy people in the world that we recognize, such as Elon Musk, he came out recently in Saturday Night Live. Sabi niya, I have autism, no? Yun, ano? So, medyo kakaiba yung personality nila. And, hindi ko naman sinasabi lahat ng mga tao na may autism ay magiging billionaires, no? Nothing like that. But we do see them a lot in society. Ako mismo may ADHD, and I have a brother 9 years younger than me who just graduated from college sa Ateneo who has autism naman. So, ayun, no?
Yes, kasi I think there are many misconceptions about parang ano ba ang ADHD and autism eh. Because I think it's also how yung it is portrayed in movies, in television, di ba? Pag sinabi nating a person has autism, nagkakaroon tayo ng misconception about it because of how it's portrayed in the media. Pero so tonight we will have those things debunked and we will explain it further. So with that, how is ADHD or autism diagnosed? Who are the doctors that we need to go to if we suspect our child has this? Miss Alu?
Because when the teacher of my son, when he was still in grade school, noticed something different, we immediately went to a developmental pediatrician. But the developmental pediatrician did not just diagnose him right on. It took them 2 years to check whether there is a battery of tests that the child has to do. There are interviews for the parents, there are interviews for the friends, interviews in the school, and these are all validated. So yung anak ko, he was diagnosed to be and confirmed to be ADHD at age 7. But if you're already above 18, a psychologist, a psychiatrist is also one, kasi hindi ka na-develop yung pediatrician, di ba? So, psychiatrist naman can already diagnose your condition.
Okay. How about Coach John, I think for autism, how it is it diagnosed?
It's the same thing, no? So there is a type of doctor who specializes in the diagnosis of these developmental conditions. They're called developmental pediatricians. So ito ay mga pediatrician na nagkaroon ng further training pa for these types of conditions. So even any sort of delay that you have in a child, no, dapat lang pumunta ka sa developmental pediatrician. So mga speech delay, mga life skills delay, and these sort of things, no. So a DevPed is, as we call them, is capable of diagnosing autism tsaka ADHD. There's also the child psychiatrists, and ang pinagkaiba nila is that yung developmental pediatrician, focus sila kung tama ba ang development nung bata o nung tao. Tapos yung psychiatrist naman, more on yung mental functioning tsaka mental health ng tao. At doon talaga nagmi-meet yung ADHD kasi ADHD also correlates with mga mental health issues. So sila yung nagda-diagnose, and but most importantly, sila yung una rin nagbibigay ng mga dapat gawin, no? So for example, yung referral sa mga different allied medical professional like speech therapist, occupational therapist, depende sa pangangailangan din ng bata kasi hindi naman lahat ng bata na na-diagnose with ADHD autism ay pare-pareho yung kailangan nilang gawin. Yung assessment nila, hindi lang naman, ADHD, so ganito ang gagawin, autism, ito ang gagawin. Halimbawa, kung nakakapagsalita naman siya, the same age niya, siguro mag-focus on something else, di ba? So, ganun po yung kaya kailangan din na pag merong mga mapapansin na delay, magpa-diagnose tayo sa mga doktor para maagapan po kaagad yung mga possible impairments. No?
Oo, and I think I'd like to, sorry, add na, you don't self-diagnose, you don't
Mm.
label. It's bad enough that you don't have the expertise to go with it. But when you start labeling a person, it's actually damaging to their mental health. They start self-doubting. So I would really like to recommend that they go to the proper doctor, developmental pediatrician, the child psychologist, psychiatrist, and also it takes a village eh. So sometimes, hindi lang yung dalawa yung ginagawa mo eh. Kasama mo pa dyan yung occupational therapist mo para lang maayos.
Yes. Actually, ito, yung isang tanong ng one of our audience is, ano po ba yung early signs of autism or ADHD that we have to be aware of?
I guess I can answer that a little bit, no? So, all sorts of developmental delays. One of the most common for both conditions is a speech delay, no? In fact, yung speech delay can actually be a symptom of not just ADHD and autism, but a myriad of other possible conditions as well, such as yung mga learning disabilities, yung mga dyslexia, and things like that. Ano? So that's one of the more common ones. For people with autism, mas obvious. Like for example, like yung some of them might like things that spin. No, titignan nila, they stare at it and they're spinning, ganyan, ano. They prefer objects, yung mga toys nila, and interacting with those things, arranging stuff, mga ganyan, no? As opposed to yung contact with other people, ganyan, ano? So with ADHD naman, it's a little bit different kasi there are three types of ADHD. So, yung una is yung tinatawag nating hyperactive tsaka impulsive. Yung pangalawa, yung inattentive lang, no? Then yung pangatlo is combined, which means combine the first two. So isa ring misconception is pag ADHD, lahat ay magulo. Some of them are actually not magulo, but they're always daydreaming, for example, no? So mas mahirap actually ma-detect at ma-diagnose yun, but it will affect their lives. Like for example, their ability to pay attention in school and their ability to learn things, di ba? So ayun, ano. So as early, while I don't believe that porke magulo ang isang bata, kasi magulo naman dapat ang bata, let's say at 2 or 3 or 4. Pero kapag hindi na appropriate sa age niya, no? Okay? Appropriate sa age niya, that's probably one of the signs that you probably have to go to a doctor. Kayo po ba, Ma'am Alu, may ma-add po kayo doon?
Basically, you've covered everything eh, because it's a behavioral. You'd notice if a child is malikot, and then there is also an unusual child na masyadong quiet. Quiet doesn't mean it's okay. Sometimes hindi mo na pala sila kausap, pero nandun sila physically. So I think for parents, when you look at your children, look at them really. Look at what they're doing, how it is compared to the milestones as they grow old. If you notice something that is different and is validated by the school, I would recommend that you check it and then have partner, ask, research, kasi makikita mo ang batang masyadong laging naaaksidente, for example. It's not, probably not ADHD. He probably has a motor deficiency na kailangan ayusin in a therapy, but doesn't necessarily have to be ADHD. Yun lang. I think you need to check sobrang daldal, hindi matahimik. One of the things which is happened to me when my child, parang konti lang ang tulog nila. Parang feeling ko, bakit kaya gano'n? Normally, ang mga child, natutulog ng talagang 12 hours, talagang, pero siya parang 6 hours, gising na siya ng alas 5. Parang bakit kaya gano'n? And then, parang, tapos hindi sila nauubusan ng energy. Energizer bunny sila.
Okay, meron pang isang tanong dito. Is ADHD and autism genetic? Namamana daw po ba ang ADHD and autism?
ADHD has a strong genetic component, no? Na usually namamana siya. Autism, parang kalat-kalat yung factors niya. Pero one strong one naman sa autism is prenatal development, no? So, kunyari, matindi yung stress during pregnancy and the like, no? But even then, yung sa autism, hindi siya given, no? Pero we can see both conditions manifest. I mean, at least, for example, ADHD has a strong genetic component. Pero, so it tends to run in families. Pero hindi rin naman lagi na merong person in the family na may similar characteristics, no? So, yun. Yan.
Ayun, that's one of the questions. Pero, how does ADHD affect a person's life? Whether siguro it's for kids or younger adults, or for you, Coach John, siguro with your experience, how did it affect your life? Let's start with Miss Alu, kasi Miss Alu has a child with ADHD. Siguro she can tell us about how it affected him growing up.
Having ADHD is a challenge because they cannot stay when my child was younger, they cannot stay for 45 minutes inside a classroom. I to the point that I asked the teacher to allow him to go out of the classroom and run every 30 minutes kasi yun lang ang kaya niya, or else he will start bothering na his other classmates, or he kept going out without even asking permission. So it really affects the school life. They tend to forget a lot of things. So for example, pag pinadala mo sa kanya lunch box, kind of don't expect na makakabalik siya during the day. No? Parang there will come a time, maiwan na siya doon. So kailangan meron kang 3 or 4 na lunch box para i-retrieve na niya the following day, yung naiwan niya even niya the night before. When they become teens, and the teenage angst, the teenage pressure that starts to kick in, they have sometimes problems with relationships kasi they're very impulsive. Minsan wala silang control with the way they talk, and sometimes that's the most sensitive stage. So parang mabilis silang mawalan ng kaibigan, tapos because they talk out of their head sometimes, or sometimes naman NR sila, yung parang kinakausap mo wala na pala, nag-daydream na ng iba. And then when they become adults, it's the difficulty of holding on to a job. Most of the corporate business, and I'm not talking, that's why entrepreneurship is better for people with ADHD kasi very quick ang decisions nila, they're very agile. Sa corporate world kasi it's task-oriented, and when you're ADHD and an adult, you forget. Hindi because ayaw mong gawin, but you miss deadlines, you forgot what the boss told you miss on the certain presentation slides. So it's kind of difficult. So kailangan talaga dobleng mindfulness. But to be hopeful about it, we have for a fact a member who's a neurologist na ADHD. So ibig sabihin nun, kaya nila to have a perfectly normal life. They just need to have a little bit of extra effort in trying to organize things, in to remember things, and self-care and self-help is what is needed.
Okay. Well, ako response ko dyan as a person with ADHD. By the way, one of the things na we also say is that usually you get diagnosed with ADHD when historically ma-observe mo mula ng pagkabata na nandyan talaga yung impairment, di ba? Nandyan yung mga characteristics ng ADHD. And tama lahat ng sinabi ni Ma'am Alu. And yung mga sinabi niya applies to me. What I would like to add would be yung experience that you feel like you are different or you are alone. And that's a very lonely, a very sad experience to have. So for example, I remember when I was in grade 3, bigla na lang akong hinatak sa tenga ko ng isang Filipino teacher palabas. Hindi ko palabas ng classroom. Dati pwede pa yun no? Kasi medyo may edad na ako. 34. But, hinatak niya ako palabas ng classroom. Tapos iiwan lang niya ako sa labas. When I got back inside, tinanong ko yung mga classmates ko, ano nangyari? Ba't niya ako hinatak palabas? Hindi mo alam, maingay ka kasi. Sabi ko talaga, maingay ako. I wasn't even aware na maingay ako. Right? So when you look at that situation, mapapatanong ka sa sarili mo, ba't ako lang? Or yung time na lahat ng mga tao nadalian doon sa test, ikaw hindi mo man lang alam kung anong gagawin mo. Bakit ako lang? Yung time na pinatawag yung parents ko kasi wala raw nakakarating na reply slip sa kanila, tapos chinek nila yung locker ko, bukas na bukas, kita lahat ng 30 plus ko na classmates na andun lang lahat ng ko. Siyempre, mapaisip ako, bakit ako lang, di ba? So there's that feeling na parang, I'll use the word bobo ka, no? Parang bobo ako, wala akong alam, ganyan, di ba? Tamad ako, di ba? Parang gano'n, no? You associate those things. And that's the experience also of individuals, I think, na PWD in general, no? Pero ang thing ko, the reason why it's so important to get diagnosed and to address it is because hindi kasi totoo yun, ano? If you just do certain things differently, then the impairment, while it doesn't go away, at the very least, naaagapan siya. Uy, kaya ko pala sa school. Uy, magaling pala ako sa ganito. Di ba? Right? So, magagawa mo yung mga ganong mga bagay, no? I also want to add that sa workplace, a lot of people with ADHD tend to excel. At least this is one discovery I had before when we started the adult ADHD support group. They tend to excel pag nasa field work sila. But the moment you promote them, kahit mas mataas yung sweldo nila, diba? But you put them in the leadership position na they're not so much in the field anymore, but they're more inside the office. Na, parang ganyan. Doon mo makikita, their quality of life goes down. They're sadder. Hindi nila kaya yung paperwork. They miss the deadlines, no? We had one person sa adult ADHD support group, Ma'am Alu, he's an electrical engineer, and pate, ginagawa niya, he does rounds. He was so good, he does rounds ng mga electrical posts, I think, ng Meralco, no? Tapos mini-maintain niya lahat yun, he makes sure everything's okay. He was very happy. He was promoted at one point, tapos tumaas ang sahod niya, di ba, ang sweldo niya. Pero dahil hindi na siya nag-rounds, parang doon siya nagkaroon ng mga problema, and that's what prompted him to get diagnosed. Kasi ganun pala siya ever since, no? Right? So, mula nung pagkabata niya. So, yeah. So, this is the experience, the common experience of a lot of people with ADHD, including myself. Kami ng wife ko were both diagnosed when we were, ayaw namin yung school. Parang natapos kami sa college. You know how most people go through their high school days and college days and say, that was the best time in my life? Di ba? Most people like that. You don't find a person with ADHD who says that. That was the time na nakaupo ako for 8 hours a day. Ayoko na yun. Masayang-masaya ako sa work ko. And that's me. Masaya ako sa work ko. Wife ko din masaya siya sa work niya, di ba? I guess that's a good thing din, no?
Sabi ni Sarah Abrera, even in school before, need pa maghanap ng school na tatanggap sa may autism na kids kahit na may session ka naman sa doctors. In your experience for ADHD and autism, is there enough help from schools for people with this disabilities?
Okay. Ma'am Alu, kayo muna or? Sige.
Yes, Miss Ma'am.
Okay. On my end, I looked for schools, small schools. Alam mo yung you have to separate your pride from your child. I grew up in a very traditional school, so I pride myself being a graduate of certain schools that I know gave me excellent education. However, when I discovered that my child cannot go through a traditional education, I had to let go of that pride. That's the first thing I have to do. And then I looked for a school, no matter how small, that will only accommodate maximum 12 for me. And that will allow my child to be watched, that he will not fall in the cracks. Kasi makakalimutan siya dahil normally tahimik siya, magulo siya, hindi siya magsasubmit. Pero if you're only 12 is a small group, then I know he will be able to manage. There'll be less people to work with. There'll be less classmates, less noise, smaller classroom, one teacher. When he got older, I decided to homeschool. I homeschooled my child in 2010, starting 2010. I'm on to my second child. He's also homeschooled. Why? Because I realized my son's timing is not the same as the school timing. he will just fail. And I believe that if he keeps failing and he will hear people saying, bagsak ka na naman, it will damage his self-esteem and hindi ko mababalik yun. So I decided I will go through the hard way. So I resigned from my work. I decided to supervise my child's education. I placed all the burden of providing to my husband, buti na lang. And for me, ang public school has very good SPED program, but ang laki ng classroom size nila. And then if the child gets pulled out, nagsasuffer din yung parang, ano ka different ka kasi mas, ano ka ADHD ka. Parang akala tuloy nila masama yung ADHD. So I guess choose a school that is smaller, choose a, they were saying the Montessori way is better, try do a homeschooling if you want, and then eventually makakaya na nila mag-college. But for me, pag bata pa, manage their self-esteem.
I totally agree with what Mama Lu said, no? This is much personal journey on the part of your child as much as it is a parenting journey on your part, di ba? Pati yung parent dapat nag-change, no? Kasi, you know, that's the ideal way to go about it. What I would like to say is, you know, back then, schools had to advertise to say that they have an inclusion program, no? Just to be able to communicate na, hey, we can handle people with autism, with ADHD, with learning disabilities. We can work with the therapy centers and the therapists, mga ganyang bagay, no? And they still do. They still promote it in that way, that our school has an inclusion program. But in reality, since I work with teens and young adults, no, and I've been doing this for the past 10 years, I will say that in reality, every school nowadays has a very already has a very strong demographic of both ADHD, autism, and various other neurodevelopmental, you know, learning issues. Ganyan, ano? Every school, and that includes that includes even some of the bigger schools that we can think of, no? Ateneo de Manila High School, UP Integrated School, Philippine Science High School, di ba? Yung mga ganyan, no? So I handle mga even small schools to big schools, no? I agree with Mama Lu that small schools tend to have yung advantage kasi mas madali silang i-manage, di ba, in a smaller population na classroom. Ganun naman yun eh. But at the end of the day, no, I think that what's important is there is this coordination between the teachers, the parents, and oftentimes professionals like myself, which I would also include yung mga, there are times that even schools will meet up online or in a group dati physically with a developmental doctor, with a psychologist, with the therapists and things like that. Siyempre, I realize this is scary to think of in terms of yung cost, diba? And of course, we have parents who can really afford it, mga ganyang bagay. But at the end of the day, you have to work with the school that works for you. No one school is a fit for all, no? Okay, hindi talaga pare-parehas sa mga individuals, no? But yes, I do think that people with ADHD and autism belong in the regular classroom. I do think now that the majority of schools have the guidance system and the policies that enable them to help out these kids, accommodate for these kids, diba? Provide the right accommodations and modifications, no. But yeah, no. I would also advise listening to your doctor, kasi what I found is that the doctors also know based on their experience kung ano yung magandang school based on your specific needs, whether it be kahit ano pang income ano ka, kahit anong income category, bracket ka, ano yung expected mo na tuition fee, it depends, talagang flexible naman siya kung tutusin. So that's the good news, no? Ayan.
Ayun, that was very insightful, especially nga na marami tayong misconceptions about it. And actually, yung some of our audience has been very active because they are sharing their experiences as well. And before we get to our next questions, let's do the first round of our giveaway. Ayan. So don't forget to like the pages of Kahel Press, Abuelita.MNL, Chihuahua Cosmetics, and Covex Disinfectant. Okay, question is, game. What is the society where you can reach out if you have kids with ADHD and autism? Ayan. Comment your answer with the hashtag MNLTalks. And later on, I will be announcing the names of the winners at the end of the show. You guys can start commenting your answer right now. Okay. Ayun. Okay, let's continue. So, our next question for our experts for tonight. What is living with ADHD like for you and the people around you? I think let's start with Coach John. For you, paano nyo na navigate yung everyday life, especially that you and your wife has been diagnosed with ADHD? Is it much different from other families who are not diagnosed with ADHD?
Sige, i-discuss ko siya in terms of advantages tsaka disadvantages, no? Sige, doon muna tayo sa disadvantages, no? Pareho kaming, ano ba, what's a good term? Sabog, no? Di ba sabog talaga kami pareho, no? And talaga may mga times na nakalimutan namin to isang malaking bagay na to, mga ganung bagay, no? And there are times that my wife looks at me, medyo tinitis niya ako ng konti, bakit ba tayong dalawa pa ang nagsama? Mga ganyang bagay, no? Tinatawanan namin, no? So may mga ganun talagang moments. And that's why, para sa aming dalawang mag-asawa, I would say that having mga in-laws ko, I love my in-laws, and also my parents, good relationship with both in-laws tsaka parents was a good thing kasi they tend to compensate a lot for a lot of the things na hindi namin magawa, like a break from parenthood, mga ganyang bagay, no? But other than that, no, I would say naman the advantage that we have as a couple is that we're very forgiving of each other, no? Kasi nga pareho namin na experience lumaki na parang hari ng sablay, no? Parang gano'n, ano? So hindi na kami nagagalit sa isa't isa, and we're able to create a safe space, no? Para sa akin yung word na safe space, ano na yan, may negative connotation na siya ngayon, no? And rightfully so. Pero para sa akin, the ultimate safe space should be the family, di ba? Nangyayari kasi ngayon, kailangan ng safe spaces in schools and so many other places kasi yung family, hindi safe space. Baliktad, dapat it should be the family that is the safe space. So I think that my wife and I have created a safe space na even if si Jordan, for example, she spills something or yung anak namin na almost 3 years old, ganyan, no? Hindi kami madaling magalit. Or kapag sumablay si Jules, hindi madaling magalit. Kahapon lang nakalimutan ni Jules, syempre, pupunahin ko siya, no, habang ako yung nasa live dito. No? Parang sabi, itong chocolate ba na to, pwede kay Jordan? Sabi ko, may peanuts yan, hindi yan pwede. Konti lang, hindi nila, ina-allergy nga si Jordan. Bigyan ko Alnix. Oh, no issue. Binigyan ko lang siya ng Alnix, anti-allergy, okay na si Jordan, no? Walang away sa mga ganyang bagay. Sa our advantage. Kasi sa occupational therapist, ako naman SPED life coach. So, that's a good thing sa dynamic namin mag-asawa. But I think that in any sort of like dealing with a person na may condition, kailangan mo ring hanapin yung strength ng tao and you take advantage of that. So for example malakas ako sa schedules pero mahina ako sa gamit, makalat ako. No? Si Jules naman baliktad, magaling siya mag-manage ng physical space pero wala siya naaalalang yung mga vaccination ni Jordan, yung mga ganyan, ano? O yun. So, kailangan doon ako in charge sa oras, siya yung in charge doon sa space. Minsan, gising na lang ako, inayos niya na yung space ko. O minsan, gigising na lang kami, sabi ko, may appointment tayo kay Doc ngayon, ano? Ayun, ganun lang, no? I think that's a good lesson sa marriage namin. I think parents are the ones that I think have the most difficult time because they have to understand their child. They have to be very empathetic towards their child. They have to realize that itong anak ko ay anak ko kahit ano pang mangyari, di ba? When you see them, kind of have impairment, no? Like I know somebody, for example, passion niya ang basketball. He's the type of guy who goes to play basketball with his friends Sunday. Tapos may anak siya lalaki, may autism. Yung people with autism, they tend to also be a little bit awkward, yung motor skills nila. Kailangan niya tanggapin at one point in time that, my son's not gonna be the basketball guy, no? Siya pala yung tipong medyo nerd type, no, na guy. And the father had to accept that, di ba? And the father had to be the one, being the older person, to bridge himself and the son. Ano ba yung tinitignan mo? Ano ba yung gusto mo? Ano ba yung mga facts about history na pwede natin pag-usapan kahit di hilig ng tatay dahil mahal niya yung anak niya. So I think those are the things that, I'd like to share in this short time. And,
How about for you, Miss Alu? For you, how how was it raising your child with ADHD?
Sa amin, it was a challenge because when we found out that Joaquin had ADHD, it was a good thing that ADHD Society was is giving us parenting workshop. So parang for me, how do you navigate a condition of your child na the only recourse is medication. So sabi namin, no, we don't want to medicate immediately. Parang, sige, let's learn. The first thing they told us in the parenting workshop is, ikaw talaga yung mag-a-adjust. Ikaw talaga yung magbabago. Because this is not because your son is being difficult. This is just because your son wants to mess up his place. It's because his brains is not kicking in so much, no? To be able to pay attention, to keep his things organized. So, kami yung nagbago. For a parent with ADHD, for parents of children with ADHD, it's the parents that needs to adjust. Because at the end of the day, yung bata, hindi naman niya gustong maging ganun. Hindi niya gustong malikot. Gusto din niya magpahinga minsan, pero hindi niya masyado magawa, no? So for me, it is also a blessing kasi if I noticed when my son got over the hyperactivity, he started to be able to focus his hyperactivity from actions. He's now very good with sports. Kahit na saan ko siyang ipasok na sport, hindi siya nagbe-beginner level. Intermediate level agad siya. He's very good eye and hand coordination. His hyperactivity is now into songwriting, so he makes a lot of music. When I have a problem that stumps me, I ask him because his answers is mostly out of the box. Why? Because madami silang nakikita na hindi nakikita ng normal trained person. So, they're very creative. So, they can find solutions that you have not thought of. That's why I realized while the gulo, when I was when he was younger, I am very OC. Kailangan maayos lahat, malinis. And then I realized, ako lang sinistress ko lang sarili ko. Tsaka sinistress ko lang siya. I can live with a dirty house. And I can make sure na hindi kami nag-aaway lagi. So, those are the accommodations I have to do. I have to think of my own and my child's health, mental health, kesa a clean house. I mean, you have to let go of that. But at the end of it, ADHD is not different from other PWD. God gives them so much different talents that when they grow up, it kind of complements, parang jigsaw puzzle. If they find the person, si Jules tsaka si Fiel, saw each other and they fit, he will find somebody he'll fit with. So that's it.
Yes, ayan, sabi nga ni Jennifer Alipasa, one of our audience, it's the dedication of being a parent to an ADHD kid. Ayun yung key for having a normal and better life for your kids. Ayan, this is the parang favorite question ko for tonight. What are the facts that we have to know about ADHD and autism? Kasi nga, there are lots of misconception, misinformation about all these. So, ano yung mga facts that we have to know about it? Let's start with Coach John.
Sige, I'll deal with the autism side muna, no?
Yes.
And then just add later kung kailangan. But sa autism, the first thing I want to tell people is that just because you have autism doesn't mean that the whole life is going to be impaired, right? Okay? Yun din yung gusto ko sabihin. Yes, it is a condition that demands serious attention, no? But today we do have a lot of people with autism who are very, very functional, no? Right? They might not be functional in the way na gusto natin sila maging functional. So for example, meron akong coachee and he's very productive in his job as an artist, right? As in gumagawa siya ng commission work at mga ganong bagay. Pero yung reklamo ng mom niya sa akin is, ba't di ba ito nagbibihis? Ganun, Minsan, bakit yung pagupit niya parang once every 6 months lang? Ganyan, While ako naman, sana mas magbihis siya ng maayos or magpagupit siya ng mas often than 6 months. It is part of perhaps his personality at this point in time na malaki na siya. You've done your part. Be thankful that he has this thing that he's doing na productive, earns him, a livelihood, mga ganyang bagay, no? So it's not the end of the world kung diagnose ng autism yung anak ninyo, no? He might be different for the rest of his life, but it doesn't mean that he's not welcome in our society. He can be welcome and productive in our society. The other thing that I want to say is that autism, as I've mentioned earlier, is a spectrum. May mga individuals na hindi talaga makapagsalita, nonverbal throughout their lives. May mga individuals naman na magagaling talaga, yan, graduate ng college. And some of them become very, very good businessmen or, good programmers and good artists, diba? And the like, no? The last thing I will say is that people with autism, the reason why a lot of people don't like hanging around them is napaka-straightforward nilang mga tao, no? Alam mo yon, yung napaka-prangka mo. Sabi mo, alam mo, mami, ang pangit ng damit na yan sa'yo. Dapat palitan mo yan, no? Pero, kung tinanong mo sila, they will not be the ones to lie, no? Pero meron ng isang comedian si Miss Amy Schumer. Isa siyang sikat na comedian. Nasa Netflix siya, sabi niya yung asawa niya may autism. Sabi niya, alam mo, yung asawa ko, nagustuhan ko siya kasi nalaman ko may Asperger siya or high-functioning autism na tinatawag, no? Dahil hindi siya nakakapagsinungaling. Pero minsan, dahil hindi siya nakakapagsinungaling, masama din Kasi, hindi, alam ko, nakita natin to Hinalikan niya yung isang babae na yun Tapos yun, diba? Siyempre, may mga ganun, no? Hindi rin sila pero you have to appreciate, diba? Okay, mga ladies, I just wanna say, makamit kayo na lalaki may autism, hindi magsisinungaling sa inyo, okay? Wala tinatago yan. Hindi nila kaya magtago sa inyo, no? So, consider a lot of them, no? So, ayun, So, mga certain facts lang, no? Last na lang is that for people with autism, kids with autism, the most important thing is the early intervention. I handle teens and young adults with autism, and I can tell you that the level of functioning they have as adults is most dependent. The most important factor is whether nagkaroon ba sila ng early intervention. So, kaya important to go to a doctor. Ano lang. Yeah.
Coach John, how early is early intervention? How early or how?
As early as baby sila, pag may naraman ng delay, di ba? Kasi sometimes, hindi naman yan autism kaagad. For example, prenatal birth, di ba? Premature birth. For example, 7 months, pinanganak. Tapos chinek ng developmental doctor. Sinabi, ay, parang may delay dun sa pagtingin-tingin niya sa mga tao, di ba? Pwede nang pumasok dyan ng occupational therapist to train them ganyan. Later on, we'll find out may autism. Pero as early as you see some things, listen to the developmental pediatrician as to what to do. No? Yeah, no?
To Ma'am Alu naman, for you, what are the facts that we have to know about ADHD?
For us, ADHD is real, and it is a lifelong disorder. There is no cure, but it can be managed. It's just a different way of thinking, parang hunter and farmer. I normally look at ADHD as having a hunter mind. Yung any moment, they can do and shift and they can be quiet. Alam mo yun, hindi siya yung farmer na it will take, so, they do things chronologically, pero ang ADHD hindi. And then, tama-tama naman si, early intervention, diagnosis is really, really key. You don't self-diagnose. You don't know the clues that really goes to before a doctor tells you your ADHD. There are different ways of managing. You can have medication. You can have therapy. It takes a village. You're the parent. I'm talking to the parent. You have a village that will help you with your child. But I think one of the things that you need to work out for ADHD is to manage their self-worth and their self-confidence kasi that will carry them through the difficult, hard way that when they grow up, all the things that they will do. And we have the ADHD Society. The parents, we have a parent support group, we have teen support group, adult support group. This is actually to help parents, just release the stress that they have kasi we have to live with it. Para siyang hindi na siya pandemic. Like COVID. Hindi na pandemic ang COVID ngayon. Endemic na siya. You have to learn to live with it. It is something that you will be able to manage. You just be mindful of the things that you do. And then, if you want, I think si Fiel said something about they will not lie to you. You know that's true. ADHD also kids and teens and adults because they're
Ako
impulsive.
hindi. Ako hindi talaga.
Wala silang they will tell you. Kumbawa secret, hindi yung secret, sasabihin nila sa yun. So I'd like to tell Fiel, totoo yun. Hindi sila
Ayun,
nagsisinungaling.
meron tayong tanong dito from our audience. How do we deal with people who are less educated about autism and ADHD? Kasi when explaining to them why our kids are this way. So, kasi nga misinformation is contagious daw. Yan, sabi siya ni Mona. So, how do we explain it to others? Coach John?
Yeah. Ako personally, yung
Yes.
ano ko dyan is show empathy first doon sa person, no? Whenever I guest, for example, sa radio, syempre, alam naman natin ngayon na marami sa mga taong bayan na, di ba, yung mga karaniwang mamamayan natin, di ba, they listen to the radio. So doon ako minsan nag-guest sa radio, you know. One of the most common questions I get is anong pinagkaiba daw ng ADHD at KSP. No? Kulang sa pansin, attention deficit. O nga naman, meron pa, so I have to explain to them, di ba? So as simple as something like that. I don't take it, kasi I think sometimes as in advocacy, we tend to become very impatient with people when people are asking sincere questions. Para sa akin kasi pag sincere yung tanong, there's no such thing as a stupid question eh. Basta sincere yung tanong, di ba? Basta ako, ibibigay ko na lang yung information as an advocate. Hindi ako yung tipo na dapat magalit, di ba? About misinformation and things like that, no? Now, with that in mind, meron din kasi tayong culture sa Pilipinas na from the previous generation na pagdating sa mga ganyang bagay, natatakot silang harapin yung mga ganitong issue. Kasi nga, ayoko ma-label na abnormal ang anak ko. Hindi ako abnormal, di ba? Parang ganyan, no? May ganun tayong thinking pa rin, and such, no? Ang sa akin, again, just show some sort of empathy. Try to see where they're coming from. But at the end of the day, para sa akin, kahit nasa ganung stage sila ng pananaw nila, when it comes to the individual na tingin nyo nangangailangan ng tulong, kung kayo man yon or anak ninyo, just get help, no? Just get help, di ba? Right? No need to, no need to awayin, di ba? Yung mga tao na ganun, yun, no? With that said, ako rin minsan napapa-conflict ako, but, at the end of the day, I think that's the right way to go. No?
Ayan, super active talaga ng mga questions.
Sorry.
Go, Miss Alu.
In our household, I decided to, when I told my relatives about the ADHD, kasama din yung may mini lecture din kami. We talked to the adults, and we told them this is the doctor's diagnosis. We showed them the doctor's diagnosis, and we directed them to different sites. In fact, sinasama ko minsan yung mom ko for checkup para lang marinig niya what's happening. But that's a very, very good question, Fiel. I think si Fiel kasi is a member of our board also. Siguro kailangan talaga natin maglabas ng something like Tagalog version of talaga yung ADHD para ma-explain natin sa lahat ng tao what it is all about.
Yes, kasi Miss Alu, parang nagiging na din ngayon to eh. Parang expression ng mga tao, ng mga the older ones, like yung mga age natin, parang sinasabi natin, ay, ADHD ako eh. Diba parang nagiging expression na siya, even without any diagnosis, pero yung parang feeling mo magulo ka lang, or makakalimutin ka, sinasabi mo na agad na meron kang ADHD. Kaya din parang nahihirapan yung ibang mga tao to really know what it is and how it's gonna be diagnosed. Ayan. So ayan, we are learning so much from our experts tonight. And of course, it's very important, especially for new moms who are trying to navigate the new normal and this very challenging parenting. Sige, let's do muna our second giveaway. So don't forget to like the pages of Kahel Press, Abuelita.MNL, Chihuahua Cosmetics, and Covex Disinfectant. Okay, second question, guys. Yan. Second question is, where did Coach John publish his 2 books? Ayan, I think the answer is one of our sponsors for tonight. So, comment your
I,
answer with the
I
hashtag.
just want to say, lagay nyo lang ka-help press sa Shopee or sa Lazada. You'll be able to find it. No? Yan.
Ayan,
Nasa Shopee at Lazada siya. No?
you guys comment your answers with the hashtag MNLTalks, and of course, tune in until the end of the show to know if you're one of the lucky winners for tonight. Ayan, I think we can answer some questions from our viewers. Ayan. Let me just check. Hmm. How will we know if a child no longer needs intervention, and what age will it stop?
Hmm.
Paano natin malalaman kung hindi na nila kailangan ng intervention? Coach John, I think you can go first.
Ano yun, it's a coordination between the school, the parent, especially in the case of teens and young adults, yung individual mismo, their therapists and the like, no? So there are times that, when I let go of my clients, so syempre, kunyari, tapos sila mag-college or may rhythm na sila in college, kaya na nila, they'll just see me every once in a while. Ano yun it's a transition out, napapansin ko, no? For a lot of individuals with ADHD and even high-functioning autism, napapansin ko after childhood, once they're already okay, they stop their therapy already. Kasi integrated na sila sa school nila eh. They already know all the coping mechanisms. They're already very self-aware and they're, minsan nga hindi mo napansin, no? So, that's a coordinate. Para sa akin, the answer to that is really dependent on a case-to-case basis. Depending on the coordination between the person, yung school, yung parent, yung mga professionals, the doctor. Ayun, no?
Agree. It really depends on the person.
So what are the programs and support that we need to do for ADHD and autism? Ano yung mga kailangan natin gawin to support?
Okay.
I think the society has progress. So can you guys talk about it a little bit more? So Coach John, I think you can go first.
Sige. I want to, Ma'am Alu, to talk about the ADHD Society of the Philippines now. But I do know that meron ding Autism Society of the Philippines, of which I am also a member of, even though I'm a board member at the ADHD Society. There's the Autism Society of the Philippines, and they're a bigger organization, no? So, they've been out there and longer, no? But with that said, ang naisip ko kasi when I look at this question is, ano ba usually ang ginagawa? So, therapy, no? There's occupational therapy, diba? There's social skills therapy, and meron pa yan down to the very techniques, no? So may reading intervention, may special education tutorials, merong DIY floor time, merong mga feeding clinics, no? Depending, ano yan talaga, marami nang available ngayon, ano? Right, diba? In my case, life coaching, diba? Pag teens tsaka young adults na, where I teach them where I teach them coping mechanisms and I hold them accountable so that they can be more independent, mga ganyang bagay, no? So there's really a lot, no? There's really a lot of programs out there. And I think you get the answers to that by meeting up with other parents. So join the support group of the ADHD Society of the Philippines, no? Ma'am Alu.
Yes.
And you also ask your doctor. But yeah, maganda rin makausap ng ibang parents eh.
Oo, because I believe, it takes a village to raise a child. And having said that, the ADHD Society promotes that village, that, we call it a safe place for us. No? So our parents meet twice once a month. Our teens and adults, they meet once a month to talk about things that they couldn't talk to other people. Like, for example, in your family, kayo lang may anak na may ADHD. Ang dami mong questions. And that's also a place where you can vent. Sometimes we have tissue on hand because it's the place where we cry together with the other parents. And it's also a place where you can exchange ideas. So sa ADHD, we take that seriously. Prior to the pandemic, we even have a parenting workshop, but we're trying to change that. We're trying to revise our parenting workshop to make it more online. So we're developing that now so we can offer that program. If you go to our website and you're looking for specific developmental pediatrician, a psychologist, psychiatrist, in our website, meron kaming directory. You can just check that out. If you live in Bulacan, if you live in Cavite, meron kaming direct. So we aligned with other organizations also so that people will know what it is. But also, apart from the program, I suggest you start reading as much as you can about the condition, so that when you meet other parents or when you meet your doctor or when you meet your therapist, alam mo yung ito siguro mas bagay sa anak ko because you live with them 24/7. So you can have a more effective type of management for your child. When they grow up, they'll be able, if they're self-aware, if they've gone through all the issues of anxiety, depression, and anger management, then mas they're richer as a person kasi alam na alam nila what triggers them, what where they can ask for help. Is there an organization that will not judge them? And sa amin sa ADHD, that's what we offer.
Ayun, actually yun yung isang tanong ng ating viewer. Sabi niya, yung mga groups po na pwedeng salihan or free sessions para ma-check kung may ADHD yung kids. Ayan, meron nang sumagot sa kanya ng website ng ADHD Society of the Philippines. Ayan, I love it. Very active talaga sila.
Let me just say, we're not a medical group, ha? So we will not give you any medical advice. You really need to go to a deathbed or a psychiatrist to do that.
Yes, ayun. Yun nga kasi sabi nga rin ni Miss Alu, it takes a village to, raise a child. So, kailangan talaga natin ng mga maaasahan natin mga tao to help our kids, especially if they are diagnosed with autism or ADHD, diba? So, that's our pediatricians, ayan, different groups that can help us, other moms who has experiences as well. Ayan. So, next question natin, I think this is for Coach John. So, anong ginagawa ng life coach for those who has ADHD or autism?
Okay. I'll just tell you that a life coach is a very general term, no? Very, very general term, yeah, no? Honestly, the first life coach I met for a person with autism, may expertise siya in Aikido, tsaka dance, and he uses body awareness to help people with autism. Kasi siya mismo may autism, he's from New York, no? His name is Coach Vicente Rubio, for example, diba? But in general, in the context that I do it, okay, I use what we call executive skills intervention. So I help them develop executive skills nila. Kasi yung scientific term for the difficulties that people with ADHD have is called executive functioning impairment. We've already understood na yung brain natin here in the frontal lobe, no, dyan yung mga functions that are related to ADHD-related impairment. So that also tells you na separate yung areas for, let's say, balance, separate yung areas for intelligence, di ba? Yung executive functioning nandito, sa may noo, sa may prefrontal cortex natin, no? So ngayon, I help normally people with ADHD delay dito. So I give activities, I give intervention to develop this, no? So yun, no? To develop that. So that includes study skills, no? Ano ba yung mga tamang coping mechanisms, mindfulness, mga ganyang bagay, di ba? Accountability, so I monitor, their behavior, what they're able to do, provide a structure that's healthy for them so that they can be more independent, ganyan, no? So that's what a life coach, in my case, does. Pero a life coach is just a very general term, no? Each life coach can be different, no? But in my case, it's executive skills intervention. Ayun.
Ayun. So, ayan, today has been super informative and helpful, especially to some of our viewers who are in need of guidance. Kasi ngayon, parang nahihirapan din yung mga parents natin at home na maghanap ng tulong kasi we are all trying to stay at home, di ba? So, this has been very insightful for all of us. And of course, I thank you for the participation of all of our viewers for tonight. And of course, we will go to our third giveaway question. Please don't forget to like the pages of Kahel Press, Abuelita.MNL, Chihuahua Cosmetics, and Covex Disinfectant. Ayan, third question for the giveaway. Ay, eto. Parang medyo pang Miss Universe yung third question natin. What is your takeaway from this episode? Ayan, ano yung natutunan niyo for this episode? And while you guys are answering that question for our third giveaway, any last words from our guest, Miss Alu and Sir John? You can go first, Miss Alu.
Okay, so I would like to invite your viewers to please check our website. We are in Facebook, ADHD Society of the Philippines. We are online, ADHDsocphils.org. And, join us, become a member, volunteer. If you'd like to donate, because we give a lot of free services, please do so. And, it helps if you could help spread the word. And then in October, coming October next month, it's going to be our 18th ADHD Awareness Week. And we have developed a lot of activities. We have webinars, a cooking demo with Chef Luis Mabulo and Breville. We have a webinar with Dr. Carlo Banaag. We partnered with Miriam College. So we have free art lessons, storytelling, and mindfulness lessons for kids and teens. So we have a lot of activities. So please visit us. So for parents who'd like to know what your kids could do, how we can help you, please visit our site in Facebook and also in our website, so we can partner with you. This is a good
Mm.
organization. This is a good society that we don't pass judgment. We try to help you, and we try to help the person with ADHD as well.
Okay.
I love
Ako
it. Thank
naman,
you,
I
Miss
want
Aluzan. Yes.
may gusto lang ako i-promote no about the ADHD Society of the Philippines. It is mandated by our government. Just to tell you that October is ADHD Awareness Month, and we have every year we have our ADHD Awareness Celebration Week. Our ADHD week. So every single day during that week, in the third week of October, October 17 to 24, diba? 17 to 24,
23.
meron kaming, yeah, we have some online things that we'll be doing. Now, I am involved kasi alam ko maraming mga nakikinig dito are mga girls, diba? I just want to say that on one of those days, on the Thursday of that week, kung ano man yung Thursday between 17 to 24, I will be interviewing who I think is the first celebrity to come out na may ADHD. I'll be having a podcast with him. That's none other than Filipinas Got Talent Season 1 winner, Marky Stroem. No? Okay? Paratanggal ko yung t-shirt niya. No, I'm just kidding. No? Ayan, interviewin na kita. Tapos challenge ng mga tao mag-concentrate para you know how we feel, no? So mga girls, no? Anyway. But I am interviewing him, so hopefully you guys can gain a lot of insight from that. Yon, no? So, yon. So, see you guys during ADHD Awareness Week.
Ayun. Thank you, Miss Alu and Coach John for joining us tonight. And if you guys have any questions for them, or meron kayong mga gustong facts na malaman about ADHD and autism, you guys can check them out on Facebook and, of course, their website. Thank you, Miss Alu and Coach John. Bye! Ayan. So, I think before we get to our winners, I just want to remind you guys about MassageMNL's free virtual classes with Teacher Justine. Ayan, that circle time class with Teacher Justine for your little ones, for your toddlers, for your kids. That's for ages 2 to 7 years old on September 18, tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. on the Massage PH by MassageMNL Facebook page. So all of the details about that are posted on the MassageMNL Facebook page. So you guys can check that out. That will happen tomorrow, 11:30 to 12 via Zoom. And of course, that's for free, brought to you by MassageMNL. Ayan, I think we have our winners. Okay, game. Our winners for tonight are... Okay. Set ko yung names nila. Yan, first winner is Mark Sebastian Ores. Second winner is Guess de la Cuesta. And third is Julie Santos Fernandez. Ayan, guys. So, a representative from MassageMNL will keep in touch with you, or will get in touch with you, and will give you instructions on how you can claim your prizes from our sponsors for tonight, Kahil Press, Abuelita.MNL, Chihuahua Cosmetics, and Cove X Disinfectant. Bakit ba ako nabubulol? So, ayan, thank you guys for tuning in for the 6th episode of the season, the first season of MNLTalks. And it's the anniversary month of MassageMNL this October, and we are coming up with exciting things just for you. So please don't forget to follow MassageMNL on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, you can follow me as well and When in Manila on Facebook and Instagram. And ayun, thank you so much for tuning in. That is a wrap for the first season of MNLTalks. We'll see you guys again soon. Bye!